Stu here with a raid at Shadow Legends on another Void Epic tier list. Now, I know I've done these before, but we have had a few other epics come out, and I kind of wanted to do it in a different format here to go over what champions are good for PvE, what champions are good for PvP, and then we also have a sad category here to talk about. So we'll start with those. Let's start with the sad category, go over why I put them here, why I don't think they're that great, and why you shouldn't invest your resources in them unless you want to use something for Faction Wars. Faction Wars, I understand. If you need something for Faction Wars, if you don't have a robust roster, or if they work out well for you in Faction Wars because maybe that faction doesn't have a lot of champions, then sure, use it for that. So Battle Sage. Battle Sage has an AoE skill 1. She can place the revive on death for your ally, but it's one of those things where you got to be ready. It's one of those preemptive. You got to know they're going to die. If it's not there and they do die, she cannot resurrect anybody. Her AoE on her skill 1, and then even her A2 to remove debuffs and put a increased attack is kind of lackluster compared to a lot of champions out there. Can she work in certain situations? Sure. But I really think compared to everything else and compared to regular champions, she's not worth investing in. Broad Maul's the same way. He can do a revive, block damage. Not that great. He's a fusion champion, but I don't see him used in anything outside of Faction Wars. So you be the judge of that. Exemplar, the same thing. Exemplar is kind of an old champion. She's needed to be revised from a long time ago. I'm really surprised she hasn't been revised yet. There's just no place to use her. She doesn't work out well anywhere in the game. Firstborn, she was just released pretty recently. And that skill 2 that hits one enemy and then does damage to all the other enemies, 60% of it, isn't going to hit very hard. Those kind of skills basically just take whatever total damage you did and spreads that damage out. It doesn't take 60% of that damage and then gives each of those other enemies 60% of that damage. It takes that 60% and then divides it by whoever's left and gives it to them, and can only be a normal hit. Even if, let's say, even if her A2 were to hit hard, she really doesn't bring a lot to the game in any kind of situation I can think about to waste your resources in. Azur, kind of the same thing. He can do the shared damage, try to carry for your team. But again, not a great champion. I think they just increased his speed to make him a little bit faster, maybe from 87 to 97, something around there. But still not somebody that I would devote a lot of resources into. So Towering Titan. Towering Titan's a pretty cool champion. He looks really neat. I wish he was better. He does damage based off of an attack. I wish he'd do damage based off of defense or HP, because he has an A2 that provokes, but it's a random provoke on 4 different targets. And then, his A1 does decrease defense, so he has a lot going for him, right? He decreased defense, does a provoke, put up increased defense on him, on allies and himself, and then does like a shield and a heal for himself. So he can be okay. He can get you through some content. Actually, he's not that bad thinking about it, but I still think he could be a little bit more. I think if they made his damage based off of HP or defense, it would be a lot better. But I'm going to put him over here. I'll put him over here in the B category for PvE, for dungeons and whatnot, but not for PvP. We're still not going to use him for PvP. We have Bertel Fellhammer, another one that can be used in Fire Knights. But besides that, and if you got him early on, he could be a great addition to a farmer and get you through content. If you get Bertel Fellhammer early game, because he always puts up a provoke, he always puts up a counterattack on himself, that could be really good. I mean, super, super, super good. So sure, if you have him early game, use him. But later on, I don't feel he's necessary. I don't feel he's necessary for anything toward mid to end game, but he can get you there. So if you have him, use him for that for sure. Warcaster, the same kind of thing with Warcaster. Warcaster has been around for a very long time. Kind of good, jack of all trades, but not really great for anything but keeps, relic keeps, right? Going through level 15 keeps or something like that. Other than that, I don't see a great use for him. He can be used on your team, but not that well. Then we have Rowan. Rowan needs her abilities again lowered. They were lowered already because they were up to like 6 turns and 5 turns. I don't know why the devs are so scared to lower her abilities down. They're not that amazing abilities. They're okay. You could lower them one more. I think lower them one more would make her A2 a 3 turn and her A3 a 4 turn, I think. But make them both a 3 turn. Why not? Make everything she has a 3 turn. It's not that amazing, and I'd like to see her played. She looks really cool. So let's get into the good stuff. What did I put up here and what kind of order? Now, these sad category, I didn't really put in any kind of order. These I tried to put in some kind of tier order. about why I think they're the best ones out there. I have videos on Seer, tons of videos on Seer, Madam Serious, Maneater. I have videos on Golden Reaper, Faceless I did a couple weeks ago for PvP, very good in PvP. And I think that's it that I've done videos on so far. I do have Padma at 50. I think I have Basher at 50. And I don't have a Sylar. I don't have a Skull Crown. And I don't have a Gala Long Braid. I wish I did. I can't wait. Once we have 2-time summon on Void Champions, I'm going to knock that out. And I should get them because I have like 130 or so Void. So I'm really hoping to get those 3 and finish it all out so I can do guides on them. And they're actually super good champions that I want to play with as well. So let's go over this. Seer can be used in PvP and PvE amazingly. She still melts waves like crazy. She'll get you to the boss fast if you don't have any other options. If you're not running the Zavi or something like that. Like myself, even though I have really good legendaries, I still run Seer. And you'll know, if you followed me, you've seen me use Seer all the time. Look at those guides. She gets me to the bosses in 17 seconds. So Dragon Ball, 17 seconds. Ice Golem Ball, 17 seconds. I do use her in Fire Knight as well. I just did a Fire Knight video about using her along with Allure. She doesn't get there as fast because I don't use Kymar with her in that, but super good. Get you there really fast. Can clear waves. Amazing champion. I use her in Spider as well. You can use her there. You can use her everywhere else. In PvP, she's still really good against really high HP champions, but still not something that I would really focus on. So I'm going to actually move her down here. Not something I would focus on a lot because she uses a lot of stats. Can you use her there? Have you seen me do 170,000 to a Mountain King? Yes, you've seen that. But it takes a lot of setup and it takes really high artifacts. It's harder to do and it's more of like a YOLO thing. If it doesn't work out, you might die. You're probably going to die because you had to bring in such support to make her work out well that you can't come back from that. If they don't die, then it's really hard to come back from it. So we'll put her here. But in general, for PvE content, she is amazing. Madam Cirrus, same thing. PvP, PvE. I put her as number 2 for PvE, dungeons, and everything else. For PvP, I put her as number 1 because she is really good. If you're fast enough, or if you're tanky enough, or have immunity artifacts, and you can strip everything they have, lower their defense, lower their attack, you're going to take so much less damage from the Skull Crowns, from anything else they have. You're probably going to win the match. It's going to help you out a tremendous amount. I use her quite a lot. Now, is she better than Skull Crown in PvP? Is she better than Sylar? Or if you need single target damage, is she better than these people? Not necessarily. I'm not saying that she is SS tier. She takes care of everything in PvP, but she is up there. She is up there at the top. We'll just focus on, I've been kind of jumping around. We'll go over to Maneater now. So Maneater is so good. We have unkillable comps with Maneater. Maneater, I've done a guide on. He can take you through Ice Golems because he blocks debuffs. He also puts an unkillable up. He drains the turn meter, gives it to himself, and then does decrease attack of 50% to all guys, to all the enemies as long as you crit on his A1. Super strong. You don't build him for damage whatsoever. You just build him to do what he does. All those buffs that he does to your group, siphoning the turn meter, giving it to himself, and then dropping the attack of the enemy by 50% is insane. He is the full package. I like Maneater in anything in the game. He really is super strong. You can build him to work out well for you in anything. So I've got him here in PvP and PvE, round number 3, which is where he should be. Padma is kind of the same thing as Maneater, but I prefer Maneater much more than Padma. Padma can do the same thing. She can do a 2-turn decrease attack on her skill 1. She's very tanky, and she can do damage based off of defense. But she doesn't bring everything that I feel that Maneater brings. Sure, Maneater's AoE, they both need to crit on their skill 1. So for Maneater to crit on the skill 1 to do the decrease attack, just like Padma has to do, he only gets it for 1 turn, but that's enough. We can try to extend that with Master Hexer and the support, sure, but Maneater brings more to the game all around in every aspect of it than Padma to me. I really feel that well. So Sylar, I don't have Sylar, but she is good. Anything that you can do AoE on her skill 1, AoE on her skill 2, and then her A3 to decrease the enemy's turn meter and put a slow speed debuff on them is insane. It works out well in spiders. It works out well in any dungeon you want to run. And if you can get it off in PvP first, it works out crazy well in PvP. And then she has an AoE. So if you wanted to put stun artifacts on her for PvE content, maybe even for PvP for fun, but you probably want her fast there, then you can do that as well. She's a very, very good champion. I can't wait to get her. Golden Reaper I did a guide on, and I played her in PvE content. I played her in a lot of arena as well. Very good. She can increase the turn. She can increase the turn meter on all your people. Give them a speed buff, 30% speed buff. Her turn meter increases 20% as opposed to like 15% from Apothecary. She doesn't have a heal like Apothecary, but she does do an AoE decrease attack of 50%. Now, when I ran her in my guides, that's crazy. Whenever you can do that in any dungeon, it is a lifesaver. And then to the boss, it is a big time lifesaver. Even in PvP against Skull Crowns and anything else that do damage to you based off of attack, biggins, whatnot, it's crazy. You get that on them, negative 50%, just like you do with Madame Cirrus and everyone else. It'll save your life, big time. Also, she can lower a skill cooldown on her A1. She's a lot of fun. I really like Golden Reaper. She's a lot of fun. Then we have Skull Crown. Now, Skull Crown really in PvE can be wherever you want to put her. She can do massive amount of damage, and then when she takes enough damage to get down to 0 or close to it, she gets the unkillable buff on her. I can't remember, maybe it's 20% of procs. I don't have her yet, so I can't remember what her exact ability is, but I faced her a million times before. Super strong AoE damage. If you want to use her to clear content, you can. I would not advise using her in spiders. It's not that kind of a damage. Spiders need somebody who hits damage based off of max HP, but in anything else, say dragons, you can use her. But in PvP, that's where she really reigns king with counterattacks whenever you attack her. And then the unkillable buff, it's very, very strong. You know, if you've played this game, you have faced a million Skull Crowns, so you know what I'm talking about. So I put her right here on the list. There she is. Let's go over to some other ones that I only put. So we've got Faceless, and I didn't include Faceless or Gala Long Braids in PvE content because I don't feel they're necessary for that. For PvP, they're amazing. Now, I did a video on him about 2 weeks ago for Faceless. They changed his A3 down from 5 turns to 3 turns. Ignores block damage, ignores shields, and ignores defense. Super strong. His A2 hits really well, hits hard as well. And he's just an all-around really good champion right now. And he's void, of course. These are all void. Gala is kind of the same way. But they're both single target damage. But if you need single target damage in arena, and hopefully, they don't have a lot of revivers on their team. See, that's the problem with single target damage in arena, is going up against somebody who has a lot of revives. If they're running like a Raglan, if they're running an Arbiter, sure, you can take out some people. Hopefully you can take out those revivers and not die to their DPS. Then you'll be fine. But usually they're fragile, right? Usually they're fragile in those kind of scenarios. But they're very good. They hit super hard. They're a lot of fun. I wouldn't advise bringing them in PvE runs. They're probably going to make your run slower. But they can work. They can definitely work in there. You can get through dragons with these people if you needed to. But when you get to the bosses, you're not going to do a lot of damage on bosses with single target damage like this. Because again, bosses usually die to poisons, to other things, explosions, to damage based off of enemy max HP in the long run. But of course, you got to use what you've got. Lua here, I used to use Lua a long time ago. And she's a lot of fun in PvE and PvP. She's very strong. All around good champion. I can't think of anything where I'd be like, hey, use a Lua for sure. If you need turn meter reduction and you want to use her on spiders, you can. If you need turn meter reduction on something else, PvP, her A3 is still very, very strong. Her AoE is really strong, but really not for in-game PvP, but she can get you. I used her at 60 a long time ago. She got me through a lot of things in the game, but that was back when they were level 15. Even still, through level 20, she can be very strong for you. She's a good champion. I am kind of jumping around a bit because I'm just looking at the ones I have here. We have Umbral Enchantress. I did a guide on Umbral Enchantress as well. Very strong champion to do a provoke first turn. Provoked for 2 turns, all the enemies. And then once you clear that wave, go on to the next wave. The debuff she gets will drop off. And then you can do block buffs on the enemy, which works out really well in Ice Golems. So go check that video out I have on her. You can do it on auto. She'll do it in Ice Golem. She'll do it also in Dragons as well. But in Ice Golem, she really shines. I think she's really good. And she can work in PvP. She's just got a little bit of low base speed, I think. Maybe 90-something. But still, she's an option. She can do a 2-turn provoke. Very strong. If you're fast enough to get that off. If the enemy doesn't have a way to block debuffs or outspeed you in a crazy manner to where you're dead, it can make the difference, right? A 2-turn provoke on all the enemies is basically over with. And it's super strong in PvE, so try her out. She is a good champion if you have her. Lightsworn I put down here on the B category for PvE. Obviously, I didn't put him in PvP at all. I'm not a big fan of Lightsworn because you have to be preemptive and know somebody's going to die. He does do the increased attack. He does have a skill too that hits relatively hard. The A3 hits 3 times, but it only lowers 10% of the turn meter. It will not lower 10% each hit. so 10% max. Otherwise, he'd be really good. If he could do a 30% lower of the turn meter, he'd be so much better for Fire Knight. He'd really work out well for Fire Knight. But since he only does 10%, not that great. Even though he does do a decreased speed and a decreased attack on his A2, which is really good for Fire Knight. So I really hope they kind of do something with him. And I just don't really like the way his A3 works, where you have to just be ready for somebody. If somebody dies and his buffs weren't there, they're gone. You don't have anybody else to bring them back. So even though he's a good champion, I put him down here. I didn't put him in the A category. I brought him down. We have Cardinal. So Cardinal is pretty strong. Cardinal has a really good A3 that brings all champions back to life with like 25% HP and gives him a max turn meter. Now this would be super cool in Arena if we didn't have Torments out there. If there weren't Torments, or when they fix Torment or change him to whatever they're going to change him to be, that's going to be pretty super. It's going to be pretty neat. If you can make a really tanky a Cardinal and then bring all your champions back to life with a full turn meter, you make them just super offensive in general. That way they're going to do a lot of damage, but they're going to die quickly. That's fine. She brings them back to life, and boom, they all attack. Could be pretty cool. Basher was just revised. Basher has a cool ability to do an AoE pushback of your skills by 2 turns. So basically, if the skill is off cooldown, it's going to push it back 2 turns. They take a turn. So for 1 turn, they're not going to do anything but their A1. Also, this will push back somebody's ability to get the unkillable buff. Like here, it's on a cooldown. You put that on a 2-turn. Well, you push it back 2 turns. So you put it on essentially a 1-turn cooldown. Because when they take their turn, it's already till the 1 turn. So all they have to do is take 1 more turn, and then they're back off a cooldown for whatever they have to do. But if you can push that back, all they can do is their A1 for that 1 turn. And then also the ability for them to revive, or the ability for them to do whatever they're going to do, is pushed back. So they won't be able to do it. Pretty cool. We're going to have to do some more testing with Basher. I'm going to get him leveled up. I have him at level 50 right now, and I'll get to show you exactly what I'm talking about with him. So I think that's almost everybody. We went over Umbral Enchantress, Padma. Okay, we have Whisper down here, and then that's it. So Whisper hasn't come out yet. Well, you can pull her. You're going to get her from Amazon Prime on January the 19th, I believe, if you have Amazon Prime. And, of course, people have pulled her already. I haven't put her here on the list because she takes quite a bit of setup. To get the weaken and the decreased defense up, I think she's going to do crazy damage. I think she's going to hit really well, and I think she's going to be fun in PvP, but she takes a lot of setup, whereas we don't need that kind of setup with Gala, and we don't need that with Faceless in Arena. But with her, we're going to need quite a bit. If I have Venus, sure, but if you have Venus, that's pretty crazy already. If you have Venus, it'll be really good with Whisper, but I'm going to leave her out right now until we get more testing done. But that's pretty much my tier list for Void Epic Champions. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I wasn't looking. I was just all going off of memory. So I hope I got pretty much most of it correct. I'm pretty sure I did. Again, I did guides on these where I was definitely more in depth, and I did runs. Anytime I do a guide, I take them through Dragons, 20. I take them through Ice Golems, 20, Fire Knight, 20, Arena and Spiders, 20, wherever I can fit them in. So go ahead and check out those guides. You'll be able to see teams where they work well in, where they get fast runs, where you'll get to see the gear they have on them, how to do their masteries, all that other fancy jazz. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all your time, and I'll see you guys all in a video soon.